Hi, everyone. I'm Silvia Pineda-Munoz. I'm the postdoctoral fellowship for the ET, Evolution of Terrestrial Ecosystems program here at the museum. A little bit about us. We're a research program whose current research focus is this: how can we use the fossil record to better understand and predict the effects of human activities on terrestrial ecosystems? But before I proceed, I would like to thank, if you want more information, you can check our website, Facebook, or Twitter. And I would like to thank my research team, mostly my advisors, Kate Lyon and Kay Burns-Meyer, as well as my PhD advisors, John Alroy and Alistair Evans, and all the institutions who made it possible for me to complete my research. But today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my PhD. Ever since I was a kid, I had this question in my head: how were the ecosystems in the past, and how did they become to be what they are today? I imagine what it could be to travel back in time and walk around landscapes of millions of years ago as I could do in the present. Unfortunately, this is not possible. But there's something we can do. We find out enough things about past ecosystems so we can make these reconstructions as real as possible. So for this very reason, they call paleontologists detectives of the past, because being a paleontologist means following clues that will tell us stories. And I was particularly interested in mammal communities because they have been crucial for terrestrial ecosystems ever since the extinction of non-avian dinosaurs about 60 million years ago. But what are the clues that can tell things? There are some clues that can tell us more things than others. Among them, diet is one of the most informative, because diet doesn't only tell us what the animal was eating in the past, but also what environment the animal was living in. And for instance, if we know that an animal was feeding on fruit, we will know that it had to live in an environment that had fruit all over the year. If it fed on grasses, it most likely lived in a grassland or a savanna. And if this animal was a carnivore, we know that it had to live together with its prey. So for this reason, I decided to investigate the diet of the fossil mammals. But how can we predict the diet of something that doesn't exist anymore? The answer is by comparing with things that extinct in the present. So this is an idea. If you like woodwork, you'll see that you might have a toolbox, and you might need different tools. You will use a hammer to drive a nail, a screwdriver to turning a screw, or a saw to cut wood. Similar, when we have teeth, we will need a different type of teeth to eat nuts, meat, or vegetation. So you will need a different set of tools for processing different kind of foods, depending on what you're eating. So the idea is that teeth will evolve to cope with the optimal morphology to process a certain type of food. And ideally, we should observe convergence evolution of tooth morphology in mammal clades that have the same diet, independently of their phylogenetic life history. But how do we compute this? This is the question. How can we know how similar two sets of teeth are? And the way of doing this, the way I approached this, was by analyzing tooth surface as if they were topographic maps. For doing that, I 3D scanned dentitions using micro-CTs and laser scanners. From the dental scans, I obtained maps. Here you can see a tooth of a Panthera and how it looks as compared to a kangaroo. These images were processed using a geographical information system, GIS, that was traditionally used for analyzing topographic maps. But what exactly on tooth surface tells about diet? Change does, change in slope, change in number of cusps. Here, for example, we have kangaroo dentition, and the different colors represent that particular point on the tooth surface has a different slope direction as compared to a rose diagram. So the more change on the direction of the slope, so the more colorful the tooth looks, the more complex tooth will be. We know that animals like the waterback, who feed on more difficult to digest food like vegetation, will also need more tools on their tooth surface for what their teeth will be more complex than those of the Panthera. So what did I do? I collected different variables from tooth surfaces, as you can see in this image. I then put them all together in a database, and you think this is, if you think that this is what the life of a paleontologist looks like, this is just 10% of the time, because this is actually what our life looks like. So what is the idea of my method? So for instance, if you go to Netflix and you start watching Jurassic Park and Planet Earth, it's likely that it suggests you to watch Planet Dinosaur. And if you allow your little niece to use your account and she starts using and watches Peppa Pig and Dora Explorer, don't get surprised if your preferences get mixed up and it suggests you to watch Dino Train. So my function works similar. What I do is I show the function how different species look like, and I ask for fossil species, and it tells me based on the morphology what is the most likely diet of these fossil species. And likely if you collect a big enough data set, you will create a morphospace, and if you have two species that feed on the same food resources, you will likely have convergence on morphology. And where are the applications of these methods? Of course, we want to use this to infer the diet of extinct species, but as well as to study the dynamics of morphological evolution. And the idea is that if we know that we have a change in time, and we can use this to see what are the effects of things like a meteorite impact or a climate change on the evolution of dental morphology. Thank you so much. Hi.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. He wants to know if I'm also looking at jaw musculature. I am personally not working with jaw musculature, but I'm collaborating with people who do that, putting information on dentition and also musculature together. But yeah, it's really informative because sometimes you don't, teeth don't evolve as much as musculature and vice versa. So combining the two really can help you accurately predicting diet much better. So he wants to know. Okay. Yeah, he wants to know whether not having an analog of something in the past for what we have nowadays can affect. And it is true that we might not have analogs for everything, but the way the methodology works is looking more at number of tools. It looks more at structures, not at morphologies in particular. So we are confident that if something is really evolved to eat a particular type of food, we might be able to point it out. The story gets a lot more complicated because you can have also multiple morphologies that are good for a same food and vice versa. But yeah, you're right. That is contemplated when we do studies, but there's ways to go around the problem.